3 by Wdowski, 2025. Chapter 16. They reached the reverse slope of the hill just before reaching Littlefields. Bruce flew back from the crest of the hill. Pixa remained there observing the town. They seem to be sleeping, Bruce informed Dale. So they are still occupying the town, Dale responded. We could just roll down upon them, catch them napping, recommended Zup. They do have patrols on the outskirts of the town, with Zachary's, Bruce informed them. They would clearly alert the others before we hit the town. Josh seemed disappointed. It would be a well-written surprise attack if we could somehow stealthily take out their patrols without waking the town. There is too much clearing between us and the town. The patrols will see us coming, Bruce responded. Perhaps we should wake them, Dale thought out loud. You want to wake them? Questioned Kia. Josh is right. If we can quietly take out their patrols, we can hit them while they nap. I don't see how. The clearing is too wide to sneak up on them. They are patrolling right on the edge of the town. Josh shook his head in the negative. We can draw them to us, Dale responded. We can use a small squad to attract their attention and then retreat back to the crest of the hill. Our main forces will be ready for them on the reverse slope. Surprise, added Zup. It would be just as good as hitting them napping. Dale turned to Kia. Can you place your warriors behind the tree line to the north of the road over there? He pointed to the tree line a few yards away. He then turned to Chopson. Place our spearmen and archers in the south tree line from the road. Just over there, he pointed. Richard, you and your people will stand in the center here. Your forces will move forward over the crest of the hill. Send 1 or 2 volleys of arrows in their patrols and into the town. When they stir and stream out after you, retreat in a panic back to this side of the hill. Kia with her chariot and the rest of us will be holding the center on the road, 20 paces back from this position, as they attack over the hill to hit us there. Chopson and our main forces will hit them from the south tree line. Kia, you will instruct your Anubis warriors to strike them from the north at the same time. A pincher motion. Kia was impressed. They will think they are striking a ragtag group of fleeing human farmers, and we will hit them with more than 200 warriors and archers from both sides. Well written, Dale. Josh approved his strategy. With all the human and Anubis forces in their positions, Dale gave Richard and the farmers the order to move forward up the turnpike, crest the hill, and descend towards the town. At 25 yards, those armed with sickles and pitchforks took 1 step forward. 2 of the Gorics on patrol saw them and gave out a horrific guttural scream, waking the town. Their leashed Zacharies growled and snapped at the farmers. The first line of human farmers stood their ground as the 2 Goric and Zacharies charged them. Behind the farmers' ragtag defensive line, a second line of men and boys drew back their hunting bows, letting loose a dozen arrows down upon the creatures. The Gorics and Zacharies went down immediately. The farmers all congratulated themselves with their easy success. They all began to confidently advance forward, towards Littlefields. Only 2 steps forward, they suddenly stopped their advance. Over 100 Gorics began pouring out of the town. The archers loosed another volley, taking down a few more of the monsters. It did not slow down the Gorics. Stepping over their dead and wounded, they then charged towards the small group of farmers. Richard gave them the signal to break their ranks and flee back up the hill to the crest. The Gorics in force took chase. Richard's men reached the crest and Richard ordered them to halt. 10 yards away, the Gorics also halted their pursuit. Most of the farmers did not halt. They continued to flee back to where Dale and the others were waiting and regrouped there. Richard and only 2 archers remained atop the crest. Noticing that the Gorics were not biting and following them, Richard screamed at them, "Come on!" Surprisingly, they did not advance any further. The 2 archers loosed 2 more arrows into the horde, taking down 2 more of the creatures. They still did not move and stood their ground, growling and hissing at Richard and the 2 archers atop the hill. "What are you waiting for?" Richard taunted them. "Come on." He then ordered the 2 archers to let loose 2 more arrows. taking down one more Goric. They still held their position. It was as if someone or something had them on a leash, preventing them from attacking the three farmers. Richard felt the horde was struggling to be let loose so they could attack. Richard looked behind him to Dale and shrugged his shoulders. He did not understand why they were not chasing them. Richard had his 2 archers take down 2 more Gorics. When those 2 fell, whatever was restraining them lost their control or finally let them loose. The horde armed with stone clubs screamed as they rushed up the hill towards Richard and the 2 archers. The archers loosed 2 more arrows, taking down 1 more and wounding another. The men then turned tail and fled down the reverse slope to the safety where Dale and the others were waiting. Richard stood beside Josh with his 2 archers. Just as the horde of Gorics crested the hill, they stopped for a moment, seeing the small group standing their ground just below them. Kia's chariot was in the middle of the dirt turnpike, flanked by the farmers, Dale, and the others. The Gorics again seemed to be being held back from engaging. Instead, they merely screamed at them, baring their jagged yellow sharp teeth. Dale ordered the archers to let loose a volley, taking down a half-dozen Gorics. The Gorics, enraged, steamrolled down the hill en masse. Dale ordered Pete to blow his bugle. Once he did, clouds of arrows flew into the air from the southern and northern tree lines. A quarter of the Gorics fell with the volley. Dale commanded Pete to blow on the bugle again. The bugle blared. 1 more volley of arrows rose from the tree lines, followed by screaming Anubis spearmen charging from the north and human spearmen charging from the south. Kia did not wait for Dale's order and charged with her chariot into the Goric center. Dale turned to the men in the center. "Shall we join the fight?" He kicked into his horse and led them into the horde. Having given away his saber, he drew his Glock and began firing down at any of the creatures that got close to him. He was amazed how powerful the weapon was, taking down 6 of the Gorics in seconds. The Gorics, their numbers already shredded by the volley of arrows, were being butchered from 3 sides. None, though, tried to retreat back to the town. They all fought to the end. It was not long that the Gorics were all slaughtered. The casualties among the humans and Anubis were few. None of their lives were lost. Pixa quickly attended and healed the few that were wounded. Very well written, Josh stated, looking at the aftermath of the short battle. Chopson approached Dale. In tow he had a tied-up demonoid. 2 of his men kept it under tight control. It was badly wounded. It had gashes on its forehead and upper left arm. The wounds were slowly oozing thick black tar like blood. Chopson handed its one-handed steel sword, with scabbard, to Dale. "I figured you could use a new blade. Not so sure you want to use that too often." Chopson pointed to Dale's holstered Glock with one of his thick fingers. Kia rode up in her chariot. Having seen Dale use the Glock in the battle, she pointed at it with her sword. "That is not nothing." "Is that what you call a musket?" she asked. "It is not. This is a much finer and more deadly weapon than a musket, but it is the only one we have," Dale responded. "Does this book you discovered show how to also make this weapon?" She seriously questioned him. Her emotions were just starting to cool down from the battle. "It does, yet it requires skills beyond our abilities. The muskets are a much simpler technology. It is why we are first attempting to construct muskets," Dale explained as he attached the steel sword and sheath onto his gun belt. "So there may be a time your people could construct these weapons too." Kia seemed concerned. Dale did not answer. Zup rode up, changing the conversation. "What is a demonoid doing among Gorics?" He placed the tip of his blade under the demonoid's chin. Using the blade, he forced the creature's fiery yellow eyes to meet his. "I command." The creature spoke in guttural broken English. "It speaks," Zup was surprised. "In command of Gorics." "Since when do Gorics follow the commands of your kind or anyone's?" "Better than bend the knee to elf creatures." The demonoid hissed at Zup. Zup looked at the fresh battlefield littered with over 100 dead Gorics. The stench of their bodies filled the air. "It seems they did not fare well under your command, demon. It is written that they do not like being called elves," Josh explained to the Red Devil. The commander, affixed on Zup, angrily repeated as he spit, "Elf, why are you among these foul creatures?" Zup kept the tip of his blade under the demonoid's chin. "Rather face pain of tormentors than talk to Elf," he responded. "Do not think your tormentors are the only ones who know how to make souls squeal." Zup seemed to have a personal animosity towards the demonoid commander. It was a side of Zup's that Dale had not seen before. "My people also have our painful ways to make you talk, demon." Kia responded with the same disgust towards the creature expressed by Zup. "It would be better for you to talk." She too seemed to have no pity for the demonoid. Dale was getting concerned that if he let Zup or Kia handle the interrogation of the commander, they will only end up with a tortured corpse and no useful intelligence. It was then that Pixa arrived. She flew up to the demonoid commander. She used her wand that sparkled at its tip and directed it towards the slashes on his forehead and upper arm. Right before their eyes, both deep wounds mended themselves and were completely healed in seconds. She then smiled at the demonoid commander. Surprisingly, he smiled back as his eyes seemed to cool slightly as he looked at her. "You want to help us," she stated. "Tell you what I know." He calmly replied to her and turned to the others. "Yet it not help you. Nothing stand against Lucifera. She write history. She mother of new world.